Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Redskins Talk TV. This is your host, Dre. Just want to talk about this train wreck of a game tonight. Um, in every aspect of the game, special teams, offense, defense. I mean, the shit looked terrible, and we all have our gripes and everything. Some will blame it towards the quarterback, some will blame it towards the coaching. It was just bad all the way around. For me, I just want to give my breakdown as far as what I saw. Part of it, I was at work. I did get a chance to see some of it, but then, of course, because I take calls, I missed some of the game. But overall, what I did see, it's not that I regret seeing it, but you can't undo the garbage that is put out on the field. And today was just the worst performance of the season for the Washington Redskins. They played a very good San Francisco 49ers team, so don't take anything away from them. I said in my pregame analysis that they're a really good team, offense, defense. Special teams look pretty even, but when it comes to special teams, I guess we can all agree that having a converted tight end like Niles Paul returning kicks, that's probably the worst idea. Really not getting a lot of gainage on that. At the most, you see him getting right up to the 20-yard line, which is starting field position, so we always had our work cut out for us. But just going right over to the offense, you know, from the quarterback to the skill position players, running backs, wide receivers, tight end, uh, things just didn't click. Uh, didn't feed Alfred Morris the ball. And, one of the keys to the game for me was about just continually getting the ball for him. The game was pretty close until it started getting out of hand, and that only happens because of defense, and I'll talk about their asses in a bit. But Alfred Morris, he's only got 14 carries for about 52, 55 yards. So with that little bit of production, things just didn't go well. He needs to carry the ball at least 25, 30 times in order to really, really oppose his will on the defense. Now, it's not easy doing that against a 49ers defense. They do pretty good against the run. But at the same time, there were some plays in which he was getting some good yardage. Didn't really have a lot of first downs, so that really hurt. And when you cannot convert on the third downs to get the first downs, it's just going to be a long game. And the success of the quarterback as well as the running back is the offensive line. Now, from Trent Williams, Corey Lichtensteiger, Will Montgomery, Chris Chester, and Tyler Columbus. I mean, all five of those guys, I don't know what the hell happened, but it was a terrible performance from the offensive line. The inability to open holes in the run really hindered Alfred Morris's ability to get the game going on the ground. And then, of course, the battering that Robert Griffin III took. Sometimes he does make some poor decisions as far as holding on to the ball too long, but when the pocket is collapsing around him, a lot of quarterbacks are going to get happy feet. He really couldn't step up in the pocket because he had pressure coming right up the middle. So especially when it comes to the interior with the two guards in the center, there was really no help. And the biggest surprise for me tonight was Trent Williams, because he is basically the one that's got the most opportunity to go to the Pro Bowl. And against Aldon Smith, he looked absolutely like garbage tonight. He was getting bullied around. They really didn't have anything as far as a tight end or at least a running back to go in to chip on the rusher, just to give Griffin a little bit of time to make his reads and hopefully get the ball out of his hands. To see our quarterback get hit that often wasn't fun, and of course, to add insult to the injury, there's one part where you see him get kicked in the balls, and there was no flag for that. I mean, it wasn't blatant, it wasn't on purpose, but at the same time, a player jumping up and whipping his leg. In most cases, you see an offensive lineman get thrown down and his leg just naturally comes up. They're going to call a flag for a leg whip, and then a couple of days later, they got a letter on their locker saying that they've been fined $7,500 for that shit. But all the same, seeing our quarterback get kicked in the balls, that kind of had me irate because no laundry was thrown on the ground. But if it were Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, yeah, you would have seen a whole bunch of yellow thrown all over the field. So I don't know what to say about that. And I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but when it comes to scrambling type quarterbacks, it seems like the league doesn't really give a lot of care like they would to the pure pocket passer. So that's a totally different story. So I'm not going to really delve too much into that. But at the same time, you have to really feel bad for the quarterback. There were some times where he made some terrible passes, nothing like it was last week where he was just really off with his accuracy. He just didn't really have a lot of time in this game. And, you hear some people talk about getting Kirk Cousins in, but really, there's not a quarterback in the league that's going to be able to stand behind that offensive line and be able to perform at any type of level without looking up at the sky pretty much on every offensive snap. That's how it was for Robert Griffin III, just getting pummeled just about every play because the offensive line just couldn't do it. Also, no hurry-up offense, which I think really helps to keep the defense off balance because they're not able to call into substitutions. It just seems like Kyle Shanahan, he lacks the innovation to really get into the film room, break down how a defense operates, and create the mismatches because there's not a team out there that cannot be beaten. No matter how good the defense is, they can all be dissected if you learn how to attack certain position players for the defense, and that's the one thing that Kyle Shanahan doesn't do. So he just lacks imagination, and as I've said to a few people here, is just the nepotism. We have father and son on the coaching staff, Mike Shanahan as a head coach, Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. He was able to do some things because no one was expecting Griffin to take the NFL by storm the way he did last season, and where I thought he wasn't going to have that sophomore slump. Well, he's very much into it, so it's not like it's the end of his career. Like Cam Newton, he might come out in his third season and be just a terror of the NFL where every kid is going to have a number 10 jersey and want to be like Robert Griffin III. Who knows? But this season, it hasn't panned out simply because of him coming back from the injury, and we're not going to place any blame on that because that happened last January. He had all the time to rehab. He's had all the game time, so he's worked off all the rust. But he's not getting any help from the offensive line. And, of course, there's some instances where he's overthrowing the ball. So a good quarterback coach is going to work on his mechanics, make sure that he's climbing the pocket instead of throwing off his back foot at the same time. The offensive lines coach and the strength and conditioning coaches, they really need to hammer at the offensive line to make sure that they give this man the protection. And also, I'm a firm believer that the offensive line should really take it upon themselves to have that commitment to make sure that number 10 stays dirt-free, grass-stain-free, and keep the quarterback upright, but at the same time, open holes for the workhorse, who is Alfred Morris, because he's the one that is really going to help carry this team and take the pressure off the quarterback. Now, as far as the defense, I can go into a lot of things as far as defense, but on this game, pretty much everyone can see whenever there was a big play of 15 yards or more, the person at the end of that play who was getting burnt like some damn toast was Josh Wilson. And when you have a 5'9" corner going up against some of the bigger receivers, and once again, the only one that I can see him kind of struggling with is Vernon Davis because he's not the prototypical tight end. We're talking about a tight end that's about 6'3", 6'4", that runs a 4.3 40, which is fast, really fast. And just every time you see the ball getting hurled up in the air by Colin Kaepernick and it's coming down, the defender for the Redskins, who is basically getting his ass dragged around trying to bring down the ball carrier, is number 26. So there were a lot of times, especially on that first touchdown, where he was too nosy, peeking in the backfield instead of keeping his eye on the man. And of course, he bit on a double move, took an inside cut, and Bolden took an outside. He just ran the outside post and got the touchdown. That's always frustrating because I'm a firm believer that as a cornerback, do more to play the man in front of you. And that's one of the things that I miss about Carlos Rogers because he couldn't catch a cold worth a damn if he was walking buck naked through the Antarctic. But he can pass defend better than most corners in the league. And unfortunately, he goes over to San Francisco, and his first year there, he turned in a Pro Bowl season and, had a good year in terms of interceptions. And we just don't have that kind of cornerback. D'Angelo Hall, he got not necessarily burnt, but he just got out of position where he was trying to keep it out on a quarterback instead of Bolden, and that's where Bolden got his second touchdown. And then, of course, Vernon Davis got, a touchdown or two touchdowns. So we essentially got left. So that's the one thing that really hurt us. Actually, Anquan Bolden, he got, one touchdown, I believe. But all the same, we lost. 27-6 is an ass whooping. And that's the kind of ass whooping that Clorox just isn't going to take off. So we've got to deal with that. And then the rest of the 5 games. So next we got the Giants. But the defense not getting any pressure on the quarterback. that's always going to make for a long game for any team. But at the same time, we were able to stymie Frank Gore, so he didn't really get a lot of yardage on the ground. And as I said in my pregame analysis, the ones that you really got to watch out for, because the other wide receiver, not really so much of a problem. It's not that they got no-name wide receivers. They have Anquan Bolden. He's not a speedy guy, but he's a very great pass catcher and runs really good routes. And for him to be able to basically get separation on Josh Wilson, that just means that our defenders have poor technique. There was a one play where Anquan Bolden, he basically ran just, a skinny post, and Wilson was trailing behind him. He was able to kind of catch up with him, and then all of a sudden you see Bakari Rambo come and throw his shoulders. And I think, the defensive players, the defensive backs coach, Raheem Morris, they really need to work on that young man, because we drafted him. I know it's in the third round, sixth round, whichever, but his technique is the one thing that's the difference between him being a full-time starter and people learning to fear his name, and then him just being a guy that comes in to spell a break for Reed Doughty or any other safety that's on the team. But, the form tackling is one thing he's not doing. Throwing your shoulders, it doesn't matter how big the ball carrier is. As a safety, put your body into it, wrap the tackle, get at least slow him down. But when you have yourself bouncing off the ball carrier, that means that you're not doing something right as a defender. So number 24, Bakari Rambo, I hope they really sit him in the game room and just work with him, teach him how to properly study film, work on his technique for tackling. And as far as Josh Wilson, it's a bad game. Normally he plays a fairly decent game. There have been times where he's been able to, kind of keep up with, the likes of Dez Bryant. But at the same time, as a smallish corner, going up against the bigger receivers, he does struggle because he just doesn't get that vertical in order to, jump up and tip the ball. But who knows? We have needs for the draft. Unfortunately, our first round is going to the Rams. And based on our positioning, they're going to get a pretty good pick from us. So it's a lot of rebuilding to do. As far as Coach Hazlitt, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that the 3-4 defense and the personnel that we have is just not working. A lot of our guys out of position. Unfortunately, London Fletcher, love him to death. He's a venerable player, but it's time for him to pass on the reins. I would love to see him join the coaching staff. Anything is better than what we may currently have for the linebacker position as a coach. But I know he's got a lot of insight being a player and then being able to transition over to coach. I think that would be pretty cool. But overall, it was just a terrible game. A lot of frustration. Kirk Cousins cannot be the answer. There's no reason to put him in just to see how the rest of the season goes. It's still the regular season. And any team that or any fan that would suggest that you just kind of give the second and third stringers the opportunity to play just to evaluate them, unfortunately, that's not how pro football works. So cut that shit out. If you're a sensible fan, don't get on the forums and post a whole bunch of stupid shit like that. We have 5 games left. I just got to take each game at a time. Obviously, we're not going to the playoffs. If we can at least make it to, a better record than what we have now, that's what I'm looking forward to. But that's pretty much it. I'll be making my pregame analysis for the Giants. We do got them Sunday night, prime time again, so hopefully it won't be another embarrassment. But if you like this video, I hope that you like, subscribe, and share. And to my Redskins family, hail to the Redskins.